The sea didn't take her all at once. It took her slowly, while men screamed and children cried and the crew rowed away with empty seats in their lifeboats. The SS Arctic was the pride of the Collins Line, an American marvel meant to rival Britain's dominance of transatlantic travel. At nearly 300 feet long, she was powered by massive side paddle wheels and boasted luxurious cabins, marble-top tables, and gas lighting. She was fast, grand, and symbolic of a nation trying to prove itself on the world stage. In September of 1854, the Arctic departed Liverpool for New York with close to 400 people aboard, among them families, businessmen, immigrants, nurses, children. Captain James Luce commanded her. A veteran of the sea, he believed in discipline, in chain of command, in honor. His own wife and 2 children were aboard that voyage, making their way back to the States. For the first 10 days, the crossing was smooth. Then came the fog. It settled in thick and low off the coast of Newfoundland, the kind of fog that swallows the horizon and flattens the sea into silence. Visibility dropped to nearly nothing. The Arctic's steam whistle blew every few minutes, but sound travels strangely in fog. Sometimes it reaches no one, sometimes too late. At 12:15 p.m. on September 27th, out of the mist came a dark shape. Another vessel. It was the Vesta, a smaller French steamer with an iron hull. The Arctic, built of wood, collided broadside. There was a groan, then a jolt. Timbers snapped, passengers screamed, and the paddle wheel stuttered to a stop. At first, the Arctic's crew laughed. The Vesta looked worse off, its bow crumpled like a paper cone. But 15 minutes later, the Arctic began to list. Water poured in below the waterline. The collision had torn a fatal gash into her starboard side. The watertight compartments meant to save her had not been closed. No distress signals were sent. No aid was summoned. Then came the chaos. The Arctic carried lifeboats for only about half the people on board, a norm at the time when it was assumed that ships wouldn't sink far from help. But this was no drill, and this time there would be no help. Captain Luce tried to maintain order. He shouted for the women and children to be brought forward, to be given seats in the lifeboats first. But panic had spread like fire. The crew revolted. Some pushed passengers aside. Others pulled pistols. In at least one case, a sailor reportedly struck a woman in the face to force her back. The lifeboats were launched half full. Sheila Luce, the captain's wife, stood frozen at the rail with her children. She had the chance to escape. But she refused to leave the ship without her husband. She told him, "We will die together." He begged her to go, but she stayed. The decks tilted. The engine room flooded. Steam hissed through the pipes as the boilers failed. Passengers clung to railings, praying, crying, clutching one another. Some jumped. Most stayed. The ocean, flat and silent, waited. When the Arctic finally went under, she didn't break apart. She sank whole, stern first. Survivors recalled a terrible stillness as she vanished. No explosion, no dramatic farewell, just a quiet surrender to the cold Atlantic. Of the roughly 400 people aboard, only 87 survived, and all of them were men, no women, no children. None of the lifeboats returned. Captain Luce lived. He floated for hours on a piece of wreckage before being picked up by a passing vessel. When he learned his entire family was gone, he broke down sobbing. Newspapers later printed his confession. He had considered throwing himself overboard, but instead, he returned to shore alone. The Vesta, ironically, survived. Though smaller, its iron hull had held. Public outrage was swift, but not enough. No one was punished. No reforms were made. The Collins Line quietly carried on. The Arctic's wreck was never found. The names of the dead faded. The silence remained. Today, the Arctic story is mostly forgotten, but in the deep, off the Newfoundland coast, something remains. A ship, a captain, a lie told by every lifeboat as it sailed away. Thank you for listening to the Sunken Ledger. Subscribe for more true tales from the depths.